Yeah, your makeup, I think your profile side's perfect, so.
Okay. Your Honor, opposing counsel, on the night of March 15th, Derek Steele had one goal and one goal only: to get his girlfriend and her friend, two young girls, home safely after a night of drinking. Throughout the night, Derek may not have done everything perfectly. He may have made mistakes. After all, Derek is 19 years old. But hindsight's 20/20. But one thing is clear is Derek's goal never left his mind, and he kept to it up until he was stopped by Officer Parker. The events that night started at the red light at Jefferson, at the stoplight at Jefferson and Highway 132. Now, testimony from the state is going to say that Derek ran that red light, but the officer never saw Derek run the red light. She pursued him anyway. Officer Parker is going to testify that she witnessed Derek run the stop sign at Fairville and 132. Evidence is going to show that that was very hard to do, if not impossible, for her to see Derek run that stop sign. Officer Parker pulled Derek over anyway. The state's going to talk about alcohol in Derek's car. Whose alcohol was it? The state has no idea whose alcohol it was. The state made the assumption that it was Derek's, but the evidence is going to show that other people had access to that vehicle and could have brought the alcohol into the car without Derek's knowledge. The state gave Derek a breathalyzer. He registered a positive on the breathalyzer. The state made the assumption that that was alcohol liquor that produced that positive result. The evidence is going to show that Derek has a perfectly legitimate legal reason why he registered a positive on the breathalyzer, a reason that is acknowledged by the deputy as being true, yet she cited Derek anyway with consumption of alcohol. The state's case is all based on assumptions. They didn't see him on a red light, they didn't see him on a stop sign. They had no idea whose alcohol that was in the car, and they don't know the real reason why Derek registered a positive result on the breathalyzer. Throughout all this, Derek's goal remained the same: get those two girls home safely. And he did everything he could to do that. I ask you all to look at the facts of this case. I want you to look at the situation Derek was in, the decisions that Derek made, the actions that Derek took. Put it all together and realize the state burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt, but they will not raise nothing but doubt in the actions of Derek Steele that night. And because of this, I ask that you find Derek Steele innocent of the charges brought against him. Thank you.
So did you feel like you needed the podium?
I think I've left it pretty good. I mean, I was satisfied. Yeah.
Well, I think, so, okay, did anybody feel like they really understood what the case was about? If you can remove yourself from knowing the case, this was your first introduction to the people versus Derek Steele. Would you really understand what this case was about? Raise your hand if you think you would.
I think parts of it, I don't think a full grasp of the whole case, but I think parts you can kind of get from it. But
So I think one of the things that you have to think about, and this is true whether you're doing a cross, direct, opening, closing, but how you're going to organize what you're doing. So you started out pretty much at the beginning talking about the traffic stop. But we don't know what see, because the problem is you already know this whole case. So in your mind, we're going to start at a traffic stop, which is like saying Easter. So you're supposed to know what I mean, but when I say Easter, I mean, what? Well, there's a double murder. Oh, what? How did we get from Easter to a double? Like, you got to connect things, but most importantly, you represent Derek Steele. Nobody knows Derek Steele. Now, this is where people really have a hard time, right? But we talk about details, so what if we talked about Derek? and just kind of talk about what kind of guy he is. And, kind of, we have a white blank canvas, so we start talking about Derek and the kind of person he is, and we just give people, it's kind of chronological because we're telling them about Derek, and then we're telling them about what happened the night he got the call from Dana. Well, who the heck is Dana? Well, Dana's his girlfriend. Now, you're the defense. Now, you know that the prosecution is going to beat the living crap out of him, because he's an adult that is having his way with this young teenage, young lady, right? But the fact is, he's not. He's dating her for 3 years, gone to 3 proms, done all this stuff. I mean, this is like a pretty serious relationship. I mean, so nobody knows this. You've got to paint the picture. I'm talking to everyone when I'm talking to you, but you're here, so. But we've got to paint the picture about Derek in a positive way. I mean, we have a story to tell. It's amazing how hard it is for people to understand what it is to tell a story. That's why I start off with the Anheuser-Busch Lost Dog, 60 seconds. But you've got to paint that vivid picture of a guy that, is a good guy. I was going to say All-American, but after being with Mr. Key in Chicago, we're not going to use that kind of language. But he's just he's a good guy. He's a good athlete. He's a good student. He's just trying to get through like everybody else. And, he's a 19-year-old guy that's on the precipice of adulthood. And he's just trying to get through. We don't want to use the word precipice, that's a big word, right? Most people probably wouldn't know that. But just the idea that, he's really kind of in that transitional phase between late teenage years and early adult years, when, if we all think back to those times, I'm thinking, other than Mr. Gellin and Mr. Key, most of us probably made a mistake or two along the way. Probably Mr. Miller didn't either, so those 3 are clear. But for the rest of us, I'll bet you, if we're thinking about a 19-year-old, our days as 19-year-olds, we probably made an error here and there along the way, and probably some even at 20 and 21. So you've got to make people, I don't want to say taste, you have to make them envision what kind of person Derek is. You've got a guy, your client's going to be sitting there. They know nothing about this guy. He's obviously got criminal charges, so your first inclination is he's a filthy dirtbag because prosecutors filed charges, so he must be bad, guilty of something. You've got to make them understand why he's not. That's the painting that we talk about. There's none of that, not even a little. But if you start from the premise that I'd like to talk to you guys a little bit about my client, about Derek. Talk about him like he's your brother, or your cousin, or somebody you like. So let me tell you a little bit about him. Tell him. And then explain what happened on the day he got this now infamous phone call from his girlfriend of 3 years. And this is not a complicated story. It's only complicated if you, make it so complicated you don't say anything about any of the facts and the details. It's really a pretty good story for both sides. So I think if you just kind of change a little bit of
my intention was, because my first point is introduce Derek. Obviously I didn't go into the detail that I've been having a problem going into. And then I've noticed that my transition from Derek to the events was really awkward. I noticed it when I was reading it. I was like, there's just a big gap there that I missed, but I wanted to keep going. But I recognized how awkward it was, because I just kind of cut off Derek and went right into the red light, and I recognized how awkward that was. But I just kept going anyway, so I didn't want to stumble too much.
What is the defense really trying to paint a picture of in regards to Derek? That he's essentially a what? A victim, thank you. That's exactly, see, you guys know this shit down. You got it down, hard, cold. He's a victim of the system. That's your basic premise. All of you on the defense side, that whether you have any idea until just now or not, that's your premise. He is a victim. Is this really that much different from the opening you saw from Professor Rose when he was talking about the love juice? That little girl's a victim, right? Well, that's what Derek is. That's why spending a lot of time talking about Derek and the kind of guy he is and his intentions
Because really, a lot of what we do and how we're judged ultimately have to be about intentions, because sometimes with the best of it, well, you know what they say about the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? So it means you can go to hell and have good intentions. So that's not always the thing, but you kind of want to set that up, like what are his intentions? You know, what did happen that night? You can set up this whole story about how do you show people, how do they understand that the cooperation is so significant, because that ties all the way back to the very beginning with the fact that Derek's sick as a dog. I mean, all he wanted to do was just lay in bed and get better. And then, you know, he got the call. It's like, he wanted to do the right thing. That's all that was on his mind. He wanted to do the right thing. Now he understands maybe some of the things he did weren't so smart. And there's some contrition now. But that's okay, because people make mistakes. And it's okay to say, you know, probably didn't always do the smartest thing. You know, he's probably never going to be called up by NASA to work as a rocket scientist. I'm pretty sure I can tell you that in good faith. But, you know, that night, all he wanted, he wasn't worried about getting a rocket ship into space or landing on Mars. He was worried about getting two young girls who were, at least Dana was really important to him. He wanted to make sure that she and her friend, because it was Dana's friend, that was important to him then, that they all got home safe. That's what it's about. It's hard to get angry at somebody that's their intention, and you can show all the way through that's what they did. I mean, right? There's other defense people here, am I right? Or, I mean, the prosecutors are all like, filthy animal. We're giving him a gas chamber. You know, we don't really have very many gas chambers left, but still, I mean, it's all about the pain. It really is. You gotta think about Bob Ross when you're doing these. Think about, you know, how would Bob Ross feel like there was a picture that he could really, he understood what kind of landscape it was, or is it like different pieces? So it was good. I mean, I felt like you were way more comfortable than I anticipated, and you didn't have to use that. And
The camera makes me comfortable.
right, well, obviously you're a natural. Right. So how about Ms. Simmons? If you come up that way, if you get a call, you're done. Right. So. Although it seems like so far so good, right? Knock on wood. I don't think there's any real wood in here. That's all pressed wood.
Am I okay right here, or should I sit back there?
You're good.
Do you want us to read our telegram or not?
I'm not worried about your telegram. I read your telegrams. You all did a pretty good job with the telegrams, I gotta say. I'm pretty impressed with that. I could tell there was a lot of smoke coming out of people's ears as they were trying to put that together.
Why did it smoke?
Sorry.
This case is about a police officer trying to uphold the law. It's also about a 19-year-old college student. A college student that was found by that officer with alcohol in his system and two drunk 16-year-old girls in his car. On the night of March 15th, Derek Steele took two underage girls, to a party at one of his buddy's house. One of the girls was his girlfriend, 16-year-old Dana Crane. The other girl was 16-year-old Marla Hoover. He knew Dana Crane's parents. Sorry. Derek knows that his girlfriend drinks alcohol.
Ms. Simmons,
Yes,
let me ask you something.
I'm off tonight, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's not about being off. It's just, you know why you're uncomfortable right now? Thank you. This is a terrible, terrible thing. It's like an episode of Intervention, right? Like, have you ever seen the one where they use that air spray that you clean keyboards with? Like people that are jacked up on that? I mean, that's really scary. But these addictions are really hard to break. And it doesn't matter whether it's the script. Okay, it's okay, it's still readable. But she doesn't need it. You don't need it because you know all this, right? So now, we're just in Kroger. We're just in Kroger, we're just talking. Seriously, that's all that it is.
There's a video camera right here, and it's like, I don't know why they hate it.
Why think about that?
I don't
It's not
know.
about, there's video cameras in Kroger. There's video cameras everywhere you go, in the gas station. bank,
cameras
everywhere.
around here.
Well, yeah, there you go. Right. Actually, this class is supposed to be videotaped, but I don't know where the camera's at. It's all audio taped.
Who puts the camera on there, isn't there?
I
No.
would
I
have
think
thought
it's
that,
on, I think it's on the podium, and it's a little like camera, little.
you can go to any of these classes and click it, and all you get is audio. But that's okay. Sorry, we digress. Go for it.
This case is about a police officer that's trying to do his job, trying to uphold the law. It's also about a 19-year-old college student. A college student that was found by that officer with alcohol in his system and 2 drunk 16-year-old girls in his car. On the night of March 15th, Derek Steele went to an underage drinking party. With him, he took 2 16-year-old girls. One of those girls was Dana Crane. Dana was his girlfriend, and he knew that Dana drank alcohol. He knew that her parents didn't like it when she drank alcohol. The other 16-year-old was Marla Hoover, who at 16 years old already had a drinking problem and often drank too much. The night of March 15th was no different. At that party, those 2 girls drank. Derek knew that they were going to drink. Derek spent the party glued to the TV in the den, playing video games with his friends. He didn't know where the 2 girls were, but he knew that they were partying with other people. Imagine, underage drinking party. The alcohol is flowing. There's plenty of bad decisions being made. Derek is in the den the whole time, while these 2 girls are off drinking with other people at the party. He has no idea what they are. Derek sees Marla Hoover at this party, around 9 p.m. Marla's already drunk. He knows she has a drinking problem. He doesn't ask. He doesn't follow her. He stays glued to the TV. Later, Derek sees her go off with multiple men, all while he's playing video games. She comes back. He notices that she's drunk and even high. He has no idea where she's been, who she's with, what she's doing. But he doesn't question her. He still is glued to the TV playing his video games. And he stays there playing his video games until his girlfriend comes and gets him. Dana's worried. She's worried because she can't find Marla. She's worried because she doesn't think they're going to make their curfew. She gets Derek, and they, together, have to go around the house and look for Marla. Marla, at this point, is drunk. Marla is high. And they finally found her, passed out, under a kitchen table. Marla can't even walk herself to Derek's car. They have to help her out to the car. Before they even make it to the car, still at the party, Marla pukes all over herself. She's full of alcohol at this point. She throws it up all over herself, all over Derek. Derek doesn't clean her up. He does not re-enter the house. Derek doesn't even clean himself up. He throws her into the back seat. Dana gets into the front seat, and him into the driver's seat. Then they take off. He never made it home. He never made it to the girls' home. He was stopped before them by Officer Leslie Parker. Officer Leslie Parker is a deputy sheriff for Calamity City. Officer Parker often does routine traffic stops in Calamity. During the night of March 15th, he was in a Quickie Mart. He heard some commotion, and immediately he goes outside to check and see what the issue is. He sees none other than Derek Steele. Eventually, Officer Parker gets in his car. After he observes Derek and hears of a traffic incident involving Derek, he follows him. He observes Derek going about 20 miles over the speed limit. And then he observes Derek go through a stop sign. Once he pulls Derek over, he notices that he sees that the car is registered to a 19-year-old. Before he gets to the car, he observed 2 passengers in the car. One in the front seat, Dana Crane, and one in the back seat, Marla Luber. The officer shines the spotlight. He sees the passenger, Dana, shoving something under the seat. He walks up, and he sees Derek in the driver's seat. He sees Dana in the passenger seat. And he sees Marla in the back seat, passed out, drunk. She can't even have a conversation with him. She can't even talk. Immediately, he calls for help. He calls an ambulance for Marla. And then he searches the car. He found cigarette packs under the driver's seat and under the passenger seat. He also found 3 empty beer cans under Derek's seat. And that's not the only place that he found beer in that car. He found a half-empty case of the same brand of beer in the trunk. Not only that, he finds a full beer, a cold beer, in the center console. Not only in Derek's view, but in Derek's reach. Derek denies drinking. Derek has excuses for the empty beer cans. Derek even has an excuse when the blood alcohol test, when the breathalyzer showed that he was over half the legal limit. Look at my ending.
You're okay, you're
There's
fine.
nowhere I'm going. I
Okay, that's okay.
think I'm forgetting something. The breathalyzer showed that Derek's blood alcohol level was 0.045. Both of the girls also tested positive for alcohol. Derek did not only endanger himself by driving with alcohol in his system, but he endangered those 2 girls. Derek is a danger to society, and he is not above the law. At the end of this trial, I'm going to ask you to look at all the facts, look at all the evidence, and I'm going to show you why Derek has to be held accountable for his actions and why his actions point to guilty. Thank you.
Wow, I mean. So tell me, what was different from when Ms. Simmons was reading the